Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of the Commission Corner. This time with another head of RevOps, and this time with Ali. Ali, we are very happy to have you today.
Thank you. It's also a pleasure for me to join.
So, Ali, you've been introduced as head of revenue operations, and your company you're employed at is called allO, like an all-in-one solution for restaurants. Is that correct?
All-in-one solution for restaurants is absolutely correct. We just call it allO, just a different pronunciation, but yes, standing for all-in-one.
Okay, wonderful. So, would you like to give yourself a short introduction, who you are, what your role is, and maybe also tell us something about allO?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Ali, Ali Can Süleymanoğlu, but I go with Ali usually in Germany. So I'm a revenue operations specialist for over 5 years. If we go back, started my career from study times. I studied chemical engineering, basically more focused on processes, process management. And so early on with my internships, I decided that I won't follow this path of chemical engineering because the working standards were not really fitting me, my character, and so on. So I started a working student role at Mercedes-Benz Turkey in Daimler Group in the sales department. And after 3 months, I moved to the CRM department where I can say I get the first introduction to revenue operations of today. I guess back then, or at least in Turkey, nobody knew revenue operations, but the beginning is usually CRM. Then after working 2 years in Mercedes-Benz, I moved to another department, started as a project manager full-time. And after 6 months with the changing conditions in my country and personal stuff, I decided to move to Germany. And I applied to a master program here and came to the Technical University of Munich. And at the same time, found a job at a Munich startup called 42, which I was almost a client of back in Mercedes. So they were trying to sell us. We switched the roles. I joined the company instead of buying the product. But it was a nice coincidence. My co-founders back then were also quite close with me. So that was my first role in revenue operations. Again, it wasn't called revenue operations. We called it back then marketing operations, starting with that, and then moved to marketing and sales operations, where I implemented a CRM for the first time, built a website, did marketing automations, and so on and so forth. And after 2 years in that company, I was hired by Alasco, my last company, as a business system architect in a real revenue operations team this time. That was really good times at Alasco. I worked there almost 3 years as business system architect, basically responsible for the entire tech stack in go-to-market, administering the CRM, the other solution, the other tools, and basically also adding on top different responsibilities like the compensation management, the touch points with finance as well, the quote to cash process, CPQs, everything basically on the tech side. And in 2020, end of 2024, I moved to allO, decided to start RevOps in the full scope, starting it from scratch in an early stage startup, at a seed stage startup. Started at allO, where they needed, again, some compensation schemes. They needed to structure the entire go-to-market, like the sales development processes, sales processes, the early customer success processes. So that was how I was hired. Again, as a first project, it started with changing the CRM. I don't know if we give names of tools, but went to my favorite immediately. And then we set up a compensation structure for sales development and sales teams. And then on, we improved all these processes and set the structures, which led to a promotion in this summer to my current position, the head of revenue operations. That's pretty much my story in the field.
Wow, very concise story, I can say,
Yeah.
and very various story. What I already heard from your story basically is that you have a favorite CRM system. Is also a question that I would like to ask, because you
Yeah,
mentioned that you made a migration from Pipedrive to HubSpot, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And Ali, since you have worked with both CRM systems, what do you say is the biggest difference between those two?
The biggest difference is the scope, probably.
Mhm.
Like I didn't have time to work with Pipedrive so long, like only 1-2 months, and maybe it was how it was set up, but everything was tracked on one object level. And instead in HubSpot, you have different hubs already where you can give a platform to separate teams differently. So SDR team working with leads and companies. If you're B2B, for example, SE, we call it SE in allO, but the account executive team, sales team working in their deal pipeline and the sales pipeline. The onboarding team had the ticket pipeline, or we created the ticket pipeline. These stuff, I assume, also exists in a way in Pipedrive, but the functionalities within those default objects in HubSpot are very good. And also the whole automation side, like how you can build workflows, how you can integrate it with other tools, how it's so easy to use with iPaaS solutions and so on, the data models. Overall, I think it's a quite a big CRM solution, and can provide different solutions for every team in go-to-market. It's not just, hey, this is CRM and everybody works in this with the same object and so on.
So when joining allO, and I'm sure that we will learn a bit more about what allO exactly does, but when you joined the company, the first thing you did was changing the CRM system, more or less. So how was that for the existing staff? Was it a bit of communication skills you needed to provide so that they welcomed that idea, or was it an
Yeah.
easy change process?
Well, first of all, it wasn't easy to convince the management who set up the previous system before even onboarding the sales team and so on. But yeah, soon enough, they also realized that this system might not be suitable scaling forward. And we were about to hire and scale the teams a lot. So let's change it from day one, because if we wait more, the burden will get more. Will get bigger. So we decided at some point, okay, like they also said, we hired you, and if this is the way that you want to go, let's move on with this, with something that you would feel comfortable as well. So that was the number one thing. And then with the teams, they were they, like honestly, it was not so much adopted from the team to use the CRM. So it wasn't a big problem that the CRM changed. So they weren't using it a lot. Like it's an early stage startup. So there were still some Google Sheets flying around, manual notes and so on. So it was almost like a first start with a CRM, I can say. But this was also hard. Like, let's not think because there is not a history of a CRM where every process was built there and so on. It's easier now. People still need to adapt to the new processes, and we had quite some hard time, which led to changing the processes very early, a couple times, and find a way that they can actually use it, which led me to build an entire tool almost myself on top of HubSpot, because especially the field sales team, if you have field sales that don't use laptops and so on a daily basis, um, they need something else. They need something mobile, for example, and it didn't really meet their needs. So we built on top, and they started using that.
I already saw that in your LinkedIn description, but we will also talk about this a little bit more in detail later. But before we jump to this, let's say I topic that you open up, let's maybe talk about allO in general. So, what is the use case, the pain that you're solving with the product?
Yeah, allO is basically replacing the old school POS and payment systems, and it's an integrated system. So where you order or where you get the order, the POS system, point of sale system, and the payment solution are integrated to each other, are integrated together. And on top of that, there are various other solutions that we provide, like with some add-ons and other features, like reservation function, normally, or kitchen monitoring system, or scan to order system. Normally, a restaurant has to purchase different tools to run their operations. There always needs to be a point of solution. There needs to be a payment provider. And on top, if they want to get reservations online, they buy it from different providers. What allO offers, as the name suggests, all in one, bundling all of these together, built in-house, everything is integrated, and giving it to the customer, to the restaurant managers, to the restaurant owners to operate within one platform.
And is allO in that regard a software-only company, or do you also start providing hardware elements into that process?
It is very hard to be software-only company. Like, we don't produce hardware, but we have to also give some hardware for the restaurants to operate with, especially for new openings. The offer that we create usually has a bundle of hardware, but our main solution that we provide is the software part.
And Ali, you mentioned already that you have worked with a field sales team because you're tackling restaurants. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the sales process. How is it structured? Is there an SDR motion as well? So maybe dive deep into this.
Yeah. It's a two-step sales motion. We also have SDRs and field sales team, sales executives instead of AEs. Basically, it goes like usual. SDR is doing the cold calling, or starting from one step before. The lead generation is done by revenue operations, partly, sometimes by the SDR. We basically fill the CRM with restaurant data, and we do the cold calling with the SDR team. The sole goal is having the meeting scheduled, and the lead is qualified when you schedule the meeting. Then, compared to other B2B SaaS startups where it's a bit different, is the sales cycle or sales process. We don't have extremely long sales cycles where we do 3-4 meetings. It's basically one shot, and either you get the signature or not. So our sales pipeline has very few stages. And the average sales cycle is also quite short. What the sales executives do is basically being on the road for 5 days a week, going from restaurant to restaurant to their scheduled meetings, and trying to pitch the product, convince the customer, get the signature on spot. Of course, we have a stage in between one and meeting scheduled. For some of the restaurants, sometimes it takes more than one meeting, but usually they don't go there again. But with some phone calls, the activities, like the follow-ups, are done. And after a few phone calls, either it's yes or no, so we know the end of the deal, or the result of the deal. Of course, it sometimes happens that we have a couple of meetings with some of the larger restaurant groups, but 95% it's a one meeting, yes or no thing.
Yeah, very, very different to B2B SaaS companies who only do inside sales, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to see a sales process on the road, people driving around from town to town and making these meetings and getting the signature in person. Which is a totally different process for most software companies.
For me as well.
Right, yeah.
Just quickly to interrupt, maybe it was also very different for me. I'm coming from prop tech industry, where we designed pipelines with a lot of detailed entry criteria, exit criteria for stages, what would happen after the first video call, what kind of data should we collect, and then you come to a complete different world. You have one meeting. Like when I configured HubSpot, I thought, okay, just 4 stages for the sales pipeline, and 2 of them are won and lost. Like, okay, was very interesting. But yeah, the importance is on different stuff than like territory planning and so on. Or yeah, you need to think about routes, how they will travel, stuff that we didn't go so much deeper yet, but there are different importance on different topics.
Yeah, and it's not easy to adopt the common framework you're coming from, and then to really simplify the things or adapt it to the sales process. Also, one point that you mentioned is that utilizing the CRM system is not that easy if you're on the road, as you need a mobile first solution and maybe, don't know, maybe some voice to chat solutions. So can you give us some insights on how you solved that issue that you described first, that your sales team, the field sales team, wasn't really capable of filling in all the notes or utilizing the CRM system, and what you built on top?
Yeah. So it was around March this year, I think, that we realized it's a lot of burden for the salespeople that are on the road for the whole day. They do sometimes 3, sometimes 4 meetings in different locations in different cities, and they don't have time to open the laptop and just typing in, find your deal, move it on. We realized that they're using the calendar, the Google Calendar, more than HubSpot. So because it's a mobile application, it's very easy to use. There are not a lot of associations on the right side, left side, some deal information, activity stream. It's a lot for them. Like, we are not selling something this complex. Our processes is easy. What we did is basically with some AI tools like Lovable, and then later on with Cursor, I started some prototypes. Actually, this came from one of my colleagues first. I should give him the credit as well. He decided to try something out on a weekend. How would an offer creation tool look like? And then he told me, hey, do you want to have a look at it? And then from his idea, I started to actually change it completely and started building a calendar where it's actually integrated to HubSpot, and you can manage your deals within this calendar. So it's very simplified. Every meeting is representing a deal, and you have the options to go into the meeting and move on from there with simple buttons. Okay, I went to a meeting. Did it get completed? Was it a no-show? Whatever else, I don't remember right now. And then if it's completed, okay, how should we move the deal? Is it going to be a follow-up? Is it a close won? Is it a close lost? And then by clicking on the next button, if it's a close won, then the necessary steps come in. But everything comes in one page. There are not more than 2-3 buttons. And this was way easier for them to adapt and use it. And the voice to speech or voice note section we also implemented in, so that they don't have to type so much on the road. After they complete a meeting, they basically get into this app, and they just make a voice note, explain the situation, give the important information, and we basically transcribe this voice note and then push it to HubSpot as a note, and also fill out some of the important properties that we have in the sales pipeline or in the deal object.
Very innovative, I'd say. So very thinking out of the box. Did you build the automations with N8N, Zapier, or Make, or was it completely hard-coded?
Most of the stuff is already in the code. I also had some help from one of our working students in the product team. He and we basically tried to put most of them into the code with Cursor at the end, like some default modules we got in, and also we built the integrations to HubSpot. But I think one function within the whole app is still on Zapier. Like, every API call is going to HubSpot. Only the voice note is going both to HubSpot and also to Zapier. and within Zapier we upload it back to OpenAI or some AI to summarize the whole note and fill out different properties, like extract information module in Zapier. It's within the AI module. This we use, and then the extracted information is going back to HubSpot.
Oh, that's great to hear. And I guess there are also other companies out there that think, well, that's a very smart approach. Maybe we can also adapt to it and maybe use it for ourselves. Apart from this AI use case, because you mentioned Lovable, you mentioned the usage of LLMs like OpenAI, are there also other use cases that you have identified that could help the sales team by using, for example, AI for it?
I mean, when you ask like this, I immediately think of common cases that you can find thousands of examples on LinkedIn nowadays, like customized emails that AI sends on your behalf. But in our use case, we don't even use emails at all. It's all calls and visits because we're working with restaurants. The ICP that we're working with is, compared to other industries, much less digital. Where AI could help is, what I can think of is, again, summarizing, maybe deal scoring, maybe forecasting but everything will be based on this voice note, because this is where we collect it. The only source of information is coming from this voice notes. It wouldn't be a specific new function. It would be an improvement, like within the app and within HubSpot.
Got it. Maybe one last question. You mentioned that you're working with companies that are not very technical, like restaurants.
Kind of, yeah.
How did the quote process look like? So when a salesperson, a field sales manager went to the restaurant, did the person have an iPad in front of them and said, "Hey, here is where you can sign," or how did it work?
That was one of the options that I also offered. I think if he ever listens, my CSO, like one of the co-founders that I work with, my manager would probably laugh here as well. We discussed a lot about this. I wanted it the digital way because then it's easier for me to extract information, send it to our invoice tool, and you can do many other things. But at the end of the day, this is something that I couldn't convince anybody in the company. They insisted, and I think it was right, with our ICP, we cannot do everything in the way that is most digital and most practical. We are going on with paper quotes. We basically have paper offers where we get actual wet signature from the customers.
Oh, and that is then just put into your CRM. So in the end, you are creating a digital quote in HubSpot, or do you have a different CPQ process?
We don't create a digital quote, but we basically read it and put it into CRM with line items, with properties. Like one of the working students in the team is specifically doing this, reading the quote and filling HubSpot deals with the right information. I also asked around, is there any good OCR that can read the handwriting of our sales executives? If anybody knows something like this, when I asked, I also got a couple of emails, but nothing was that good so far. I would be willing to have a look at it. I think it's a lacking thing in the age of AI. The OCRs are still so stiff. Like, of course, if I write something with, or if I print something out from Excel or a Word document that is formatted, yeah, cool, everybody can read that. But the handwriting of a real human being, and then, I don't know, crossing out one of the discounts and then writing something on top, it makes OCRs go crazy.
Yeah. And probably it's a mixture of using different providers for it and then testing, hey, what is the highest accuracy, or who can provide the highest accuracy. But yeah, that's just an idea that I have. Maybe since taking a look at the clock right now, let's jump over to one of the most discussed topics in our podcast, the topic of commissions. Ali, you mentioned when you joined the rocket ship that you sat down and thought about, hey, how can we properly incentivize the sales team. So my question is, how do you use commissions at allO?
Well, I think we have a very motivating commission structure. We have it for SDR team and sales team. It was a long process to decide on which metrics to actually promote with the commission. In the beginning, we had a lot of discussions like, okay, should we divide to the entire variable compensation into 5 different parts, and this metric should contribute to 20%, this metric should 30%. But we thought at the end, okay, this is too much. Like, you cannot control every behavior with commission. Some of them is trust and enablement and developing the people, and some of them should be tied to commission. And for SDR team, the main KPI is basically meeting schedules or deals created. That's the North Star metric for them. Like, all the rest is just activity levels and would contribute into that. And for the sales team, we went with logos at the end of the day. Logos and I don't want to say MRR, but in our world, the volume that they bring. We are also doing some payment part. So what kind of revenue does this restaurant have? So it's basically tied on the revenue of the restaurant and number of logos that they bring in a month. And that's how we roll.
Okay. So first it's interesting and positive that you have sole commission structures for SDRs and for SEs, so that they are motivated to their own North Star metrics. When looking at the SDRs, do you make a difference between a scheduled meeting and a sales accepted or sales qualified meeting, or is it really just the scheduled meeting, and then if the person is no showing, it doesn't matter for the commission? Because that's also widely discussed when to start incentivizing the SDR.
Yeah, until we don't have any stage called sales accepted, deal opportunity, and so on. We basically decided to move on with just trust. Like, at the time that we configured this commission model, we saw that there is not a huge problem with the cancellation and no-show rates. So if there is no problem, there is also no need to already take precautions. We just left it to trust. Could there be a revision now that we add some decelerator or accelerator based on the acceptance rate, or basically meeting completion rate? Yes, I think it would be necessary, or it would be useful. But again, before you see like huge cancellation rates, like 30% or I don't know, something like that, we didn't prioritize this.
All right. Maybe since you have already a bit of experience with commissions, is there some advice that you would like to give to fellow RevOps people regarding commissions?
Oh, I don't see myself at a position to give so much recommendation. I'm pretty sure there are people with much more experience on this. But I think what I saw, like, one of the most motivating things is having an uncapped commission structure and rewarding the extra performance. Like, anything over 100% target achievements, we also configured it in this way in allO, and people don't stop basically doing their at their quota, but they put even more effort to exceed it, and that's where they make the money, right? So they go like, okay, now I hit it, I can even bring more and more. It's also preventing sandbagging, because the more you bring this month, or if they do it quarterly, the more you will earn. Of course, you need to calculate your quotas, your targets right, because it might be also quite costly. But if you believe in the quotas, then I think it's a really good way to motivate people.
Yeah, good words. And as we are coming to the end of our podcast, we usually play a game with our guests, which is an either or game. So we give you two options. about an incentive model that you maybe plan for 2026 for a different company, just for your own preferences of a sales team, maybe of 30 people. And you decide what is your preference when designing that incentive scheme. And Alex, you can start with the first either/or question.
Yes, Ellie, would you put more focus on the fixed component or on the variable component?
I'm more pro for variable component.
And looking at that variable component, would it be paid out as an on-target commission with a variable pay connected, or would you prefer to share closed revenue?
On target commission, I think it's easier to calculate, forecast, and connect it to your revenue plan. Or, yeah.
And would you incorporate a cliff, like a minimum threshold that the sales rep needs to exceed or to reach?
Instead of a cliff, just like what we have right now, I would rather start with a decelerator. I guess this is how it's called, like a minimum or minus multiplier. And then after what you thought in the beginning as cliff, you can start like going a bit more accelerated.
Okay, and that acceleration, you gave an answer of your preference already, but still going to ask it. Will that acceleration be capped at any point, or would it be an uncapped commission scheme?
If targets are calculated correctly, if you believe that it's right, then uncapped.
Okay, Ali, thanks so much for sharing your views today on RevOps, how you became a head of revenue operations, your experiences. We already learned that HubSpot is your favorite CRM, and I guess this will not change in the near future.
Let's see.
Yeah, and also your view on commissions. So very interesting that you incentivize on just meetings and not any qualification criteria so far. But I guess that's also the beauty of every company. Every company is unique. Every business model is somehow different. And every company needs to take a look at what brings the company actually forward.
Yeah, it's the nature of our business, and meeting comes as when the lead is qualified. So that is actually equal in allO. But yeah, we don't have a lot of qualification criteria because, as I said, our industry is not that complex. Yeah.
All right, Ali, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much as well, and good luck on your podcast.